Welcome back. In this video, we are going to go ahead and add the intent in order to move from one screen to another. So to get to our activity add happy place XML file or to the add happy place activity. And well, in order to do so, let's get started by adding this intent and an on-click listener in our main activity. So inside of the onCreate, I would like to have the fab add happy place. This is the floating action button that we had, and I'm going to add a set on click listener onto it. And what I want to do in there is, of course, to call this intent that will bring me over to this other activity. Of course, we also need to import the intent and then the class to which I want to move over, and that is my Add Happy Places class, Add Happy Place Activity class .java. All right, and then we can start this intent. So start activity with the intent. All right, let's test this. All right, there we are. Let's click on the fab button. You can see we're in the next screen, which is our Add Happy Place activity. But then we have no back button here at the top, even though when we press the back button here, of course, it brings us back. But then let's implement that back button all the way up there. And therefore, we need to go to our Add Happy Places activity and just add the app bar. So set support action bar, which is going to be our toolbar that we created. So toolbar add happy place, which we have in our activity happy places. So this toolbar here, that's the one that I want to use. And then I'm going to get a navigation on click listener here for our toolbar. So let's set that. Set navigation on click listener. And in there, I just want to call on back pressed, which is this default functionality, which will do the same thing as if we press the back button. And then we need to support action bar dot set display home as up enabled to true. So this line here will add the back button. All right. Now let's test this again. There we are. So let's move over and you can see we have this back button. And you can also see that they are white. So we have white colored text here, and also this icon here, this back button is also white. And the background is blue. So the background being blue is basic. That's something that we have set in our add place XML here, which is this color primary. But how did we get the color of the toolbar being white? Well, that's something that we have set up in our styles XML, which is this custom toolbar style. So we said the text color primary should be white, which is this headline color. So this one here, and then this other one here, this color control normal, is this back button, which we also set to being white. All right, so if you were wondering what this style is, now you know, because I really just added this and only talked about it very briefly. All right, so then we can go ahead and start designing our happy place activity, this one here. I'm going to show you what the goal is and how it's supposed to look like afterwards. And then your task will be to build that yourself, of course. So you know how to build UIs, right? You've done that multiple times. And if you don't want to do it because you feel like you had enough practice, you can, of course, just download the whole thing and just paste it in there, as I will do it, because I'm not going to type in all this XML code. All right, so there we are. And this is how it's supposed to look like afterwards. And you can see we have a bunch of edit text with our hints here. And then we have this little area here, which has a background button and this add image button with a save button at the bottom. So try to implement that. By the way, this whole thing here is inside of a scroll view. So if you were wondering what kind of UI element we're using here, so it's the scroll view, this one there. Because it could happen that the things, the whole UI elements don't fit into a screen if you look at it on a super small screen, for example. All right, so please go ahead and try to implement that. Okay, so I hope you paused the video and tried it. Otherwise, it's fine as well, of course. So I'm just going to paste it in here, and you will see that it's a lot of code that is used here. So it starts in line 21 and it ends in 160 something. And let's look over it from the top. So I'm using a scroll view, which is called svMain, or I'm going to call it svMain. Then the width is match parent. The height is going to be 0 density pixels. Fill viewport is set to true. And you can see here, fill viewport defines whether the scroll view should stretch its content to fill the viewport. And I'm setting that to true. Then we have the constraints. So this one is to constraint to bottom of parent, 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 and then constraint top to bottom of the ID toolbar add place. Then I'm using a constraint layout widget constraint layout here. So inside of my scroll view, I'm using a constraint layout again, which in turn has text input layouts, 4 of them in total, and they all have an app compat added text in there. And you can see I'm using a bunch of strings, colors, and dimensions, which are all in red right now. That's because we still need to add those dimensions. So I decided to do the whole project with external dimensions and strings and everything, so that it's going to be a super maintainable project. All right, so I'm not using any magic strings or magic numbers in here. So we're going to have everything in external files. Okay, and I think it doesn't really make sense for me to express or talk about every single aspect of it. You can really just download the document and look through it. Basically, what we're using is something that we have done before. The only thing that is probably interesting because it's new is going to be our app compat image view that I'm using. So the width, height, margin, background padding, and the source are all in red because we still need to add them. So this add screen image placeholder, that's something that we need to paste in here. So you can download it, of course, from the course, and I'm going to paste it into my drawables here. So add screen image placeholder PNG, which is this image here. Okay, so this will be the background of this app compat image view, or at least it's going to be the source. The background itself will be an image view border, which we also still need to create. And then we have a text view, which is actually our add image button. So it's this add image, which is really just a text view, but we're going to use it as a button. Okay, and there, what is interesting in here, well, nothing really, but then the button that I'm using here at the very bottom, which is this beautiful blue button here, which says save. Well, that's also something that we need to create. So it's this shape button rounded. All right, so let's go ahead and create this real quick, this shape button rounded. Hover over it, create drawable called like that. And this shape button rounded will be a shape with corners. Okay, so we're using this shape being a rectangle, solid, which is the background color, and it has some corners with a certain radius. All right, at this point, everything seems to be red, so I'd say let's go to our dimensions and create those dimensions, and also the whole strings and colors that we're using, because otherwise I think it will be a little bit confusing here. Let's start with the dimensions. So inside of the dimensions, I'm just gonna create all of those new dimensions here. Let me paste them in. And you can see I have many different dimensions. So what's important here is that they are meaningful names. All right, so the names should be understandable and they should really express what they are doing. So for example, the dimension that I would like to have for added text size should be 16 sp. The add screen TIL margin top should be 5 density pixels. And this TIL, if we look at it, is at the very top, which is our text input layout element. Okay, so here, this is the TIL. For example, TIL location and so forth. And that was the dimensions file. All right, so you see all of the dimensions are in here. So if I then later on look through the design and I decide to use different values, I don't have to go through the Happy Places or Add Happy Place XML file. I just go to this dimensions file and I can change everything from here. This becomes especially useful when you have multiple screens which are using the same kind of sizes. Okay, so if you have, let's say, 3-4 screens, they are all very similar to each other and they have many things that they share with each other, then it would make sense to change the dimensions in one spot. Okay, so instead of having to change all of those different XML files that you have, so let's say the Add Happy Place XML file, then you have another XML file and so forth, then you would instead just change everything from one file. Okay, so this is the dimensions file, and as I said, it's a different approach this time, but that's because we have already seen how to do all of those things many times, and I think at that point you're really ready to go with this approach. Okay, so then I need some strings, and I have this edit text hint title, I have this edit text hint description, date, location, then the text add image, and the button text save. So why would you do that? Well, the advantage now is that you could go ahead and adjust your application so that it works in different languages. So you could change this text add image to Bild hinzufügen in German, just as an example. Okay, so this is the basic idea behind using this strings XML file, but of course also you can change things from here, because mainly what you're going to do most of the times is going to reuse the string names at some points, and then it really makes sense to change them in one spot, because otherwise it's a mess to go through all of the different files. Okay, so you can already see here edit translations for all locales in the translations editor, so you can have this additional editor which will really help you to add translations here quite easily. But I'm not going to go into that for now. If you want to learn more about it, I highly recommend to just try it out. So the next thing that we want to do is to add the final colors that we're still missing, and I'm just gonna go to my colors XML, and here I'm gonna add the other colors that I want to have. So I have this text color, the secondary text color, a white color which we're gonna reuse, and then the button background color, which is this light blue, this one that we have here in our color palette. Okay, at this point we can go back to our layout file, this activity add happy places, and we can see if we still have errors, and actually we still have one, which is this shape image view border. So if we look at it, I have this little border around the image that I'm using. And in order to create this, what you can do is the following. So let's go into this file, or let's create this file, and I'm just gonna paste it in here. So basically it will just be a rectangle with a stroke which has a width of the dimension that we defined, a color that we defined, the secondary text color. Then it has a solid color background, which is our white color, and it uses corners with the radio shape. So here add place image shape, you can see it's 3 density pixels. And that's also cool because you can very easily move over to a dimension if you just press Control and then click on it, or hold Control and then click on it, and then you will see where the dimension is defined. So if you want to change it, you can easily change it from here. All right, so now let's test it and let's see if the UI works as we expected it. Okay, there we are. And as you can see, it all looks as intended. Okay. Later on, we are going to add another button here, which will allow us to set the location based on where we currently are. But overall, this is pretty much what we are going to use for our application. Alrighty, and in the next video we are going to add the functionality for the date selector here, so we will be able to select a date and then populate this added text accordingly. So see you there.